Welcome to the Retzel Health Law Hotspot. Health Law Hotspot is a podcast for physicians and health professionals that covers the legal issues and trends that affect the healthcare industry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Health Law Hotspot. I'm Ericka Adler, shareholder and leader of the healthcare practice at Retzel and Andrus. Today, we're talking with Mark Henderson Leary, and Mark is guest unlike any other guest we've ever had on before, so unique experience. He is a certified EOS implementer, and what he does is he helps people get control of their businesses, and he's worked with hundreds of companies in every kind of business under the sun, but in particular, he likes to work with private practice and healthcare. Mark also hosts the podcast Practice Freedom, Leading and Scaling Your Private Healthcare Practice, where he loves to help practice owners get the most out of their people, their business, and most of all themselves. So today, what we're really going to be talking about with Mark is a variety of topics, but mostly how can Mark help a practice like yours find an entrepreneurial solution, I guess would be the way to describe it. So how can you get more of what you want out of your business, in this case, your healthcare practice? So hopefully that'll all make sense when we're finished talking, but welcome and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for being here. You and I share a common passion for this space, and so I'm grateful for the conversation and excited to dive right in.
So let's talk first a little bit about the work that you do with healthcare practices. What kinds of problems do you see them having, and what kinds of complaints do they make when they come to you seeking your help?
Yeah, so the first thing that I encountered in the healthcare space was what I call the 3 practice perils. And this is first that we have to become a business. And that's sometimes a shock to the system. There's some awareness that we don't have the tools to do that, and we got to do this, which means we have to manage people. We got to hire and fire people. We got to hire and work with people who are not just physicians. We got all the disciplines. We're going to have measurables and metrics and profit and all that kind of stuff. And sort of digesting that can be a big pill to swallow. The second one is somewhat obvious, but it's this: we're here to create clinical outcomes, healthcare outcomes, some health outcomes, and sometimes it gets a little lost or implied. We have to figure out how to do this with the part of our brain that's not actively being challenged on a day-to-day basis. So we got to figure out a way to protect that and make sure those 2 perils are sort of coexisting properly and taken care of. The third one that's where it really lit me up, was this idea of who am I? This identity, my role. And in the system I teach, we're always looking at, there's 2 types of leaders in the business. And in terms of the visionary type leader who's thinking about how can we make the biggest impact. And we've also got this other leader, which is the executor, making sure things are running on time or running the business as a business. And that's a polarity in all businesses. But in healthcare, there's this third role, which is this individual healer that has a high calling very often. Now, not always, but just to contrast this, if you take a typical plumbing company or a welding company and you've got the leadership team, there's rarely the founder, CEO sitting at the front of the table saying, you know what, this P&L is in trouble and we need to work on it. But frankly, I got to go get some welding on. I got to get out there and weld that trailer together or whatever, because that's my calling and that's my purpose. And it's like, that's not what happens in healthcare. However, that is something that happens a lot. I am the world's #1 renowned plastic surgeon, or ophthalmology, oncological ophthalmologist. Put too many syllables together, but that's a real thing. Like, I have to do that. So a lot of founding physicians are not really aware of the fact that they're trying to do what they think is one job. I'm the leader. I'm the doctor. I'm that. But there's 3 very taxing, very full-time jobs, roles, responsibilities that are pulling them apart into doing all these things. And when they haven't figured out that sort of separation of how to delegate that and do those things, the more successful the practice is, the more it creates hyper dependence on them. And there's sort of like this grimacing expression of like, wow, the practice is doing great. And man, if it does any better, I'm going to burst into flames because all roads run through me and I don't know what to do with this. And so I help them create the awareness of those three areas. And then we chart a path through that.
Okay, so what might be one of the signs that they need your help? Is it because they are just so stressed out from they're successful and they're stressed out because they can't be any more successful? That's one example that you gave. Is it also because they know they have all the right people and they're a great doctor, but they're struggling financially? Is it a particular issue that they dealt with that made them question their very existence and future in healthcare, or is it a variety of these things? They're just kind of looking for, for the people that are listening,
Yeah.
how can they identify that you're, the kind of person they need to listen to, as opposed to getting a new accountant or talking to their lawyer? Because I certainly don't do what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Probably, am getting, some calls from clients who, may need that kind of help.
Well, it kind of worked by, so in terms of top three, the profitability question is luckily in healthcare, it's not as common as it is outside, but it is not a non-zero issue. There definitely are many practices out there who are embarrassed, and rightly so, by how not profitable they are. There is this perception that the money's big and the doctors make a lot of money. And there are a lot of founding physicians who are like, I just cut my salary in half because I got to pay these people. I got these associates, got all these things. And they don't share financials. And there's lots of reasons for that, but they wouldn't dare, not because of the embarrassment of how much they're making, but because there's of how little they're making. That is a real thing. Not the most common though. The number one most common is what I call hyperdependency. Hyperdependency, you may not recognize that, you hear that word, is the pain, but it sounds like if I take a day off, nothing happens. When we're profitable, it's because I was one extra day in surgery a week for 4 weeks. And if when the audit comes, I'm the only one who has the answers to those questions. Because healthcare, I talk about that individual healer. There's no other industry that I work with where one person can have so much leverage, where they have exponential capacity to do these jobs that are either regulatory regulated, licensing required, or simply just produce cash by just doing their work. They can actually just show a couple more hours, a couple more days, they can totally change the P&L. So they have a superpower to enable massive amounts of bad behavior. They can have wrong people in wrong seats and not have the right leaders and right managers, and they can just like outwork that to the point of sort of ludicrous disproportion. So if you feel like the more successful the business is, the more you have to work, that's an issue. If your Father's Day or Mother's Day comes and goes and you feel like a fraud when you get that best dad, best mom cup, that's a signal you might have a problem that we can solve by helping create a leadership team and doing things that allow you to reduce that hyperdependency and move you into the right seats and the right roles for you, which there's a whole process to that, because what your right role isn't necessarily the same as somebody else's. There's a process to sort of figure out, like, is individual healing really for your thing? It might be. And if so, we got to figure out how to size that up and create the rest of the team. But that's sort of the number one and number three. In the middle is just, you talked about, I have the right people. Like, a lot of times people know they don't. They know they don't. They really know they don't. They don't like a lot of the people who are there. They have a massive gulf between who they think can think critically about patient care and outcomes and a bunch of people who they just think only care about Candy Crush and going home early. And that is a massive problem. And it is a very, very, very common problem. And I would call it kind of very much related to the number one problem of hyperdependency. We healthcare organizations historically just don't hire great for lots of reasons. I have lots of opinions on, but they really hire way below average across all industries in terms of quality. And I say quality people, I'm not judging people as good or bad humans, but right people for the jobs they need to do, right people for the mission and the calling of what this organization is about. Healthcare is terrible at that by default. So we gotta get better at that.
I think that's really interesting, because a lot of people I talk to who, they can't talk to me, they can't return my emails, they're so busy, can't take off vacation, etc. They would view all those characteristics as them being very successful, right?
Exactly.
And they would acknowledge that in fact is a problem, right?
Yeah.
And I see how that's probably true of many different businesses, not just healthcare. So you have these doctors that are so successful, but whatever the issue is, they want to hire someone, they want to fire someone, they want to handle an audit, they want to expand a service, they want to extend their lease. It's always them, right? And I think in a solo small practice, it's hard, right? You don't have other people, but where you have a bigger practice and you do have other people and you still play that role, I absolutely can see where they're getting their issue. So once somebody identifies that they have some of these issues that you're mentioning as a problem here, obviously they find the time somehow to be able to reach out and talk with you. Do you usually find that it's something about their personality, or that no matter, they can see it but they can't change it? Or is it something where helping them acknowledge and see it can lead to change? I'm just kind of wondering, because sometimes I think it's just the personality of the people that gets in their own way.
Well, yes and no. So there's two things I can't fix. One is I can't fix the belief that you don't need help. Like there has to be humility of some kind. Even the best surgeon in the world has to understand that, like, I'm the best at this, but there's things I'm not great at, and I invite some help. If there's no aptitude or appetite for help, non-starter. The other one, non-starter, is what I call abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. So guys, we all sort of deal with scarcity mindset, the feeling that there's not enough, and at a time, periodically we're afraid of not having enough or things going poorly. But some people are kind of to the spot where, like, look, I understand how this world works. It's about reducing costs and not letting people take what's mine. So I just got to make sure I pay my techs and mid-levels as little as possible. In Q-tips, we got to get the prices lower than that. And we're going to lowest rent possible. That mindset is a different mindset. The abundance mindset is somebody who feels like we seriously can make a difference. This matters. And now, you might be afraid in the moment that it's not working. What if it doesn't go right? But if there's that sort of desire inside to do something bigger, better, to grow, then that's all I need. Because from there, we've got to figure out what your superpower is. And I can promise you that if you've got that feeling, you have a superpower. And we channel it in the right spot. And we just in very oversimplified terms, have to figure out what the other people are, who the other people are, to do the stuff that are not your superpowers. And that is a process you go through to create something bigger than what one person can do.
That makes sense. So what is usually, what kind of sets off people to realize that they need help? Is it usually they were sick and things fell apart? They are getting divorced because their spouse says they don't do anything but work. I mean, well, what is like a very common trigger that might lead to people having, the insight into the fact that they, if they want more, they can have more, as you put it, right?
Yeah.
What do you usually see as that aha moment?
Well, I think frankly, the trigger is somewhere between a repetitive cycle of, I thought it would be better. And that's a normal thing. We're almost there and it's going to be better. And suddenly either we backslide, or what we thought, when we finally got what we thought we wanted, it actually hurt more than we thought. Right? Wow, we finally got that additional doctor. And now I'm so crazy busy. It's way less fun than I thought it would be. That accumulation meets up with an accidental discovery that it doesn't have to be that way. Running into another practice, spending time around other entrepreneurs who are outside the industry who say, like, why do you do that, man? Why are you not delegating this? Why are you a genius with 1,000 assistants? You could have a leadership team of one person who's great at marketing, one great person who's great at finance, one person who's great at leading clinical operations, one who's great at leading doctors, and you can do these other things. And the light goes on, like, really? There's a way out of this? And that's when the floodgates open, because what I'm teaching is not secrets of the mysteries of the universe. This is timeless principles that have governed business for hundreds of years and will be built into business and organizations for thousands more. It's about simplifying the organization, delegating and including more people in the organization, predicting the operations, and so we can be accurate with where we're going, systemizing the organization to be repeatable through process and things like that, and structuring the organization to be something that delivers the products and services and experience that we want it to be. Those principles are immutable. I didn't invent those. I just help people get those on the road.
I think, with, at least in my experience, they're so smart. They did great in school. They're physicians, but a lot of them don't have any training in running a business, right? And so they kind of fell into it, and they figured it out for the most part, but never really thought, hey, I don't know what I don't know, right? The same thing, often I'll look at employment or other contracts with doctors, and they'll say they never taught us this,
Right.
I didn't know. I don't understand what I'm reading. I know this is English, but I don't really know what it means. And I feel like, sometimes doctors, they feel like they have to figure it out on their own, and they often do great, but then they can kind of hit a wall where they can be bigger, they can be better, they can be happier, right? If they allow people to help. And I know, physician practices, their team is composed of any number of people, right? They're lawyers, they're financial advisors, they're CPAs, and they're consultants. And, I think sometimes letting in those team of advisors that bring something to the table to help make your life better can be really hard for those physicians who have been successful so far to accept. I don't know if that's been your experience, but often when I'm trying to, I'm talking with a doctor who's kind of facing some of the issues that you mentioned, and I'm trying to make introduction to people to say, hey, there's a better way to do this. Why don't I introduce you to this person or that person? They okay, yeah, I'll get back to you, but they don't, they don't want to take that extra step. It's outside their comfort zone. Often, and you and I have talked about the trend of physician practices selling, right, to private equity and to other buyers. I often find that it's those doctors who are very successful and have built something, but are frustrated by, how hard it is, having hit a wall with their time and energy, et cetera, that are among the first to be really interested in a buyer. Do you see that? Is that something that sometimes people are considering when they finally are talking to you? Do you feel like your help deters them from wanting to sell when otherwise they might have considered it?
Oh yeah, for 100%. So kind of all the way back to the beginning of what you were talking about there, the awareness that there is nothing in the business and management bucket is there, but what to put in the bucket, that's what is not so obvious. And so I think part of the issue is, they hear things like, well, you gotta delegate. Oh, all right, okay, delegate. What does that even mean? You got to be more compassionate. You got to lead with vision. What does that mean? And the business is a complex set of challenges. And so, I like to contrast simple solutions, simple problems, and complex problems. And what's the difference? To me, a simple problem is solved by an answer. Okay, this is the situation, and this is the answer, and off to they go. So we try to solve business problems as though it's a simple thing, especially people like this. Oh, running a great business is a simple thing. You just got to whatever. Well, it's not. It's a complex set of moving pieces that when one variable changes, another variable changes, and there's a whole set of knowledge and formulas and equations, and people coming out of medical school are taught that they literally have to memorize the answers to all the questions they could potentially have. And so in a sense, it's a vast array of answers. But in business, it's a humbling exercise of asking questions and responding to these things in a dynamic way, and it's just a lot of moving pieces. And so teaching them a system is the important part of that. So when you talk about a system, what does that do to the value of the organization for somebody who's frustrated? So this happens all the time in all industries. It's like, I'm just about done with this. I don't like this. Can we get rid of this thing? Oh, how valuable is it right now? Well, not that valuable, because I'm the one that does everything, and the last thing I want to do is be a part of this when I leave. So that's not good. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to build an organization that would be something without you, that is more than you. It's process driven. It's more than, there's lots of people in it, and could we teach them to convey value? So the process of getting people into their superpower It's like, well, I actually like doing this work. And the business is kind of profitable. And I don't have this sort of urgency to get rid of it, which now creates options, which is like, well, now it's it's valuable. I could sell it. And then oftentimes you get the flip side problems like, well, now that it's so fun and now that it's so valuable, I don't want to let go of it. Well, that might actually be the time for you to sell it because it's at its best. And so that is a common scenario with some caveats. Like I want to be clear that it's not a light switch event. Like I don't come in and help a company turn around in 3 to 6 months who's got a terrible culture. It might be a 2-year journey to turn the culture from like toxic to excited if we're seriously engaged in doing that process. So, if you're at the end of the rope, I mean, one of the things that's kind of interesting phenomenon in healthcare is burnout is so quick. And it's like I'm going to get these numbers right, but maybe the metaphorical symbolism of this will be useful. Within 5 years, people start leaving the industry because they're kind of burned out about it. If they stay past that 5 years and they're in a situation that's not rewarding to them, by the 10th year, they're permanently burnt out and they cannot gain that hope back. So where are you in the life cycle? How much little flame do you have in your heart? And, I want to help you get on track for a bit of a workout that we're going to decide that, you want to get off the couch, you want to run a marathon, but right now you're just watching TV all day and, 2 6-packs and, and pizza every day. Okay. This is not going to be a weekend thing, not just one boot camp. We're going to change your diet. We're going to put you on a workout plan and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to hit your goals. So that means they better be good goals for you. And we got to do that work to sort of mine out what really matters to you. And is it going to be, is the time frame worth it? And it's so sad to me when I do encounter this across all healthcare, from, internal medicine to ophthalmology and optometry. It's like, I just don't think I can believe anymore. I just going to suffer through it, and I'm going to hopefully get rid of this thing to some private equity group who will take it and give me some money, and I just want to be done with it. And I hate that. That just makes, I'm like, there's so much value. The lowest value healthcare organization I work with, the lowest value is healing people for a living. Getting people back to their lives, getting their vision back, getting them to feel better, to have a better day in some capacity with their family. This is amazing. And it's just heartbreaking that there are people who are like, it's just an over-regulated, shackle around my neck that I wish I could get rid of.
Right. Yeah, I definitely experienced that. So working with, these private practices in healthcare, what do you see as, the future for private practice? I mean, you're working with doctors year after year. You're getting a sense of their thoughts about private healthcare. Do you think it's an exciting time where they're still energized and want to be in private healthcare? Are they looking mostly for alternatives? Or where do you see private practice healthcare going?
Love that question. So I have a vision to personally help 1,000 private practices get what they want from the practice, which ultimately helps them live the life that they want to live. And so what I observe is the entrepreneurial spirit is 100% still alive, because doctors and founding physicians are all made out of the same material, humans. And humans do what humans do. They create, and especially in the United States, many of them are very entrepreneurial. And there is always entrepreneurial excitement around entrepreneurial leaders. So what that looks like is that healthcare, as we'll call it an industry, has never really had to market like a regular business. Between the insurance model and credentialing and the value chain of referrals, it's sort of like you just sort of get connected with somebody and then the patients flow through the system. Now you got to be much more efficient. And now innovation is coming where we're starting to see like, well, what if reimbursement isn't the only way to make money? What if I can sell products? What if I can be more retail? What if I could create value through brand and finding an ideal patient, ideal customer who wants what I have? What if I could market and make money on healthcare, like fitness oriented health activities rather than simply sick care, reactive care? This is all coming to life, but it's all very nascent, right? So we act like this industry is so mature, and it is in many ways, but it's very immature in terms of like going to market with creativity and creating new and exciting services. So when I work with companies, what I find is my prediction is over the next 10 years, 900 of those 1,000 companies I work with are just going to be practices who decided they had an ideal customer, an ideal patient who wanted some kind of customer service, some kind of very specific outcome, or specialized on disease or psychographic and demographic or whatever we decided our focus is. And we got really good at it and delivering exactly that and nothing else. And that's just being a regular old good business. And I think 900 of those 1,000 are just going to be great at that. And people who come to those organizations are going to love it, because that's what I see happening right now. At the same time, maybe 100 of that 1,000 are those innovators who like, we are doing it so differently now. We're using software and an app, and we're changing the supply chain, and we're sharing resources in this way. And we've got these crazy new technology things that are transforming it. And I think that's enough. I think that's what creates the revolution to totally transform healthcare into what we want. Because part of what we're doing is figuring out what we want. And that's part of the opportunity, is that we know we want more as a consumer, but there's so many options, and none of the itches have been scratched. And so the field is wide open. And so it's just an exciting time for all the innovation and all the opportunity, which of course does bring it with it the potential and invitation for many spectacular failures along the way. So there are some bumps to be had, and some the speed bumps and stubbing of our toes. So that is inevitable. We have to deal with that, and we will see more and more spectacular failures of innovation along the way. But I do think it's inevitable that it provides us this very demand and market-driven need and transformation of exactly what people want.
Great. Well, all right. I guess why don't we wrap up, and can you tell people where to find your podcasts for those that may want to?
Absolutely. Check us out at practicefreedom.com. Lots of material resources and podcast episodes. And if you need to get a hold of me, there's a way to get a hold of me out there as well.
All right. And we're definitely going to share your information as well when we post this. But thank you so much for joining me. And I don't know, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
I just, kind of reiterate that point that there are a lot of cynical minds out there, and it's real. And even, I talk about scarcity mind and abundance mindset, and it's so amazing how I can be so excited talking with my clients and the people I talk to. And then suddenly I talk to somebody's like, man, this is the worst. People are not honest, and they're doing this, and it's just not worth it anymore. And I just go right there with them. And I'm like, man, maybe this is a terrible idea. Maybe we should just give up. It's so easy to get sucked into that negative thinking. But the reality is, if I look at who is leading this and what's going on, it is undeniable that this is a time of transformation. Somewhat early stage, but it's still never a better time to make it a business and make it high value. Not only, I guess, both sides of this, you can be profitable. And the number one lesson I have to teach from that business side is profit is not a bad thing. Profit is an indicator of value. And if we're saving lives and getting people back to what they want to do, people pay for that. And that is a good indicator of high value through good, reasonable profit. And that opportunity has never been greater.
All right. Well, great final thoughts from Mark, and you will be able to find his information when we post this. And thanks to everyone for joining us at the Health Law Hotspot. You can catch all of our episodes at ralaw.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us.
The Retzel Health Law Hotspot is made available by the firm and its attorneys for educational purposes and to provide general information, not to provide specific legal advice. Use of the Retzel Health Law Hotspot does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and the firm or any of its attorneys. The Retzel Health Law Hotspot should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice, and you should contact an attorney in your state about any legal needs or questions you may have.